Awesome.
You can go ahead and get started.
Okay, let me see if I can get my camera to come on too so y'all can see me. Sometimes it gives me a hard time, so I apologize if can you all see me okay too?
We can see you. Yeah.
All right, I've been outside in the elements all day getting all the zip lines and stuff ready. So I apologize for my sweatiness today, but I'm so excited to be presenting for the Howell Nature Center. For everybody that's in attendance, welcome. My hope is that I'm able to answer some questions about the camp that's coming up for you and your children and your students. So I'm going to go over a bunch of things. I'm the director at the Nature Center, so I essentially oversee all of the summer camps and all of our school programs. So I work with all the teachers from all the different schools that come here for their field trips and manage the staff and the programming. So I have one of the best jobs ever. It's super fun, and I'm so excited for your kids to be able to come out here and enjoy the beautiful Nature Center. So let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to go over were their 3 dates, so 3 separate times that Heritage is coming out. The first round is going to be May 1st through the 3rd, second round May 3rd through the 5th, and then the last round would be May 8th through the 10th. So we're hopeful for good weather. Those are some awesome dates. You guys are so lucky to have those dates because we have schools that try to get those May dates very often. So I'm hopeful for good weather for y'all during May, but it is Michigan. So, all right, a little bit about us. Like I said, we are the Howell Nature Center. We sit on just over 200 acres. So our property is not super, super big, but it is big enough to feel like you are away from home and immersed in the woods and immersed in nature. We sit right on a little lake called Pleasant Lake, so the students will be able to see that. That's right where all of our cabins are, so it's very beautiful back there. Like I was mentioning before, we do some summer camps. We do overnights and day camps throughout the summer. We do year-round programming and retreat programs here at the Nature Center. And what makes us kind of cool and different from other camps is that we have our wildlife education. So for those of you that don't know, the Nature Center is kind of divided into 2 sections. We've got camp that kind of happens in the back of property, and then we have all of our animals that live up front. So the Nature Center acts as a rehabilitation clinic. The public can bring in animals to be rehabilitated and re-released out into the wild. And then for any animal that can't be safely re-released, we build a habitat for them that mimics their habitat in the wild. So we're kind of like a zoo of sorts, but not a zoo where you're going to see a giraffe or a rhino or things like that. They're all Michigan native, and your campers will be able to experience that. So that's kind of cool about us. Makes us a little bit different from traditional other summer camps around the area. And if you want to learn more about what we do, if you want to come out for a fun family day, we do a lot of community programming and things. We're open to the public 7 days a week. Just check us out at howellnaturecenter.org. So now that my shameless plug is done, let's get into where are the kids going to be staying. So the cool thing about when your school group is here is you have all of our buildings in the back. So all of these names here on the left-hand side are our cabins. Grinley is this main one in the middle here. This is a cabin, but it also doubles as the dining hall as well, which I'll show you pictures of in just a little bit. But since you have all of those cabins reserved, it'll be kind of like a nice private heritage experience. So everybody will be separated. The teachers handle separating all the kids into groups and who's in what bunk, and if you're chaperoning, who's a chaperone where. But as you can see by the pictures, it is not rustic camping by any means. Nobody's going to be in a tent or anything like that on this camping trip. All of our buildings have heat and air conditioning, electricity, running water. All the bathrooms and showers are inside the buildings. So it's kind of nice. Nobody's ever out in the dark looking for an outhouse or something like that. So everything's just kind of right there. Like I said, we have electricity. So if you need to plug in your phone or plug in a nightlight or a fan, that is possible for you here at the Nature Center. All right, so a couple pictures I like to show of inside the lodge, just so everybody is prepared, especially you as parents sending your kids to camp. When you walk in all of our lodges, they're all arranged a little bit differently, but one thing that carries true through all of our lodging are the bunk beds. So as you can see, they're metal bunk beds. They're twin-sized bunks. So we've got a top bunk and a bottom bunk. I like to show this picture because it has a picture of someone's bag right here. When you're thinking about what bag to send your camper with, honestly, there are no rules. So whatever your camper is going to be comfortable with carrying, but I would recommend maybe like a duffel bag or a little suitcase or something that's going to easily fit underneath the bunks. So if you kind of look closely at this picture, there's space where the bunk is kind of like risen off the ground. That's where a lot of people keep their bags until they're ready to get clothes or get shoes or get something out of it. So I recommend that. And then in terms of bedding, when they walk into the cabins, they're just going to have these mattresses. So you want to make sure that you pack bedding for your camper. And that can look a couple different ways. As you can see here, we've got somebody who's just real straightforward and simple. We've got a sleeping bag and a pillow. But then it looks like up here, you can kind of see someone brought a whole sheet set. We've seen both. It's whatever you're comfortable sending and whatever your camper is comfortable with staying with. I will say though that our mattresses are made of a vinyl material. It's for sanitation purposes because we clean before and after every use. And when you go sleeping bag to vinyl mattress like that, it can get a little bit slippery. So I put a pro tip at the bottom here. No matter which option you choose, whether you're sending a set of twin sheets or you're sending your camper with a sleeping bag and pillow, I would still try to pack a fitted sheet, just because when that fitted sheet is on underneath the sleeping bag, it kind of eliminates that swishing around. Not the end of the world if you don't, but just kind of a pro tip for comfort. The campers can bring stuffed animals and things like that. Anything that makes them comfortable. I would just say make sure that you label everything and whatever they bring to camp. It's not something that is super important to them, just in case they lose it or it gets misplaced or it gets muddy or torn. So just making sure that you label your campers things and only have them bring the things that maybe aren't like the most super special items. And then over here is a picture of inside the bathrooms. Nothing super glamorous about this photo. I just like to show it because it shows the separate stalls. So if there are any campers that are uncomfortable changing in their cabin, totally fine. There are stalls that they can go into and change and have privacy. Obviously, the showers are all separate. And they're all inside the lodges, like I said. So nobody's going to be walking around trying to figure out where the bathrooms are. They're all right there. What's not pictured are the sinks and mirrors. So, when they're washing their hands or brushing their teeth, they can kind of see themselves and make sure that they've got everything they need to look good for the day. All righty. Now that we talked about lodging, I'll talk about food. So, like I mentioned before, Grinley Lodge doubles as cabins, but also the dining hall. So you can kind of see the inside of that lodge here. It's super beautiful. We have sliding doors in the back. The lake is in the background. It's just an awesome backdrop for your campers to dine. And then we always set up a buffet line. So our meals aren't gourmet. They're kid friendly, so they're going to be getting the chicken nuggets and the mac and cheese and the lasagnas and the waffles and things that we know are tried and true, kid tested. We work with Gordon's, which I know a lot of the schools work with Gordon's food as well. So we try to make sure that every meal is yummy and everybody is well fed, since they're going to be expending a lot of energy. Making sure that they have enough to eat is really important and that they like their food. If your camper has any dietary restrictions, allergies, preferences, just make sure that you communicate that to the teachers, because when you communicate that with them, they'll communicate that with us, and we'll be able to let our kitchen staff know well ahead of time, so that way they're prepared and they know that someone doesn't eat chocolate or someone's dairy free or someone is a vegetarian, and they'll make sure that they have separate options for your camper. So just make sure you communicate those needs ahead of time. One thing I do like to say is that we are not completely peanut or tree nut free, meaning that there are things that have been made with that. Not all of our ingredients are. We can accommodate that allergy, but if it's airborne, we have a lot of trees as well at the nature center that makes that kind of hard. So just communicate that with your teacher, and if we need to discuss that a little bit further, we can as well. Alrighty, now I get to talk about the fun stuff. We got all that stuff out of the way. I get to talk about our programming. So what is it that your campers are actually going to do when they're here? We pride ourselves on our programming and how we give all of our campers a really well-rounded camp experience. We essentially divide our curriculum into different buckets. So one of the buckets is nature education, another bucket is wildlife education, and the last bucket is adventure education. So I'd like to kind of go through each one of those one at a time so you can get a better idea of what that's going to entail for your child. And then I can kind of give some tips along the way on what to wear and what to pack and what to make sure happens before they get there. So our nature-based programs are pretty straightforward. They are the programs that are going to get your children really immersed into nature. So as you can see by some of these pictures, survival skills is one of the things that we like to do, where they're learning how to safely construct and destruct a fire, how to put up different types of shelter and survive, and what those different types of shelters can look like and what's important to have. We do things like pond study, where they look in the pond and actually see, they catch things and discover, what those things are. So all of those programs, like I said, just really immerse the kids and campers into nature. But what I like to kind of point out in these photos is what our grounds look like. So as you can see around this area here, this type of ground is what the majority of the nature center looks like. It's dirt, it's gravelly. There's patches of grass, but most of our trails are dirt and gravelly. So you want to make sure that you're sending closed-toed shoes, just so little rocks and things don't get lodged into your camper's foot. So anything that's kind of closed-toed is going to be helpful for them. Boots. Obviously, we've got lots of water. We have a lake. This is our pond. So sometimes if it's like really rainy in May, which hopefully, again, we're holding out for good weather for you all, but if it's rainy, the ground will be muddy. So you want to make sure you're not sending your child's favorite pair of shoes or the most expensive pair of shoes or clothes to camp. We want them to get dirty. We want them to have fun. So just keep that in mind when you're packing for your camper. And then our wildlife programming. So your campers will get to go through that zoo part that I was talking about earlier. So you can kind of see it here, a couple of the habitats, and you can see one of our instructors, and then all of the kids here that are learning from that instructor. So your campers will get to do just that. They'll get to see all of our resident animals. They'll learn about their species. They'll learn about their stories, because each animal has a different reason for why they're at the nature center. Because like I said earlier, they're non-releasable for some reason. So they're either permanently hurt, or they're too reliant on humans, or someone had them as a pet and declawed them and they can't leave, or can't protect themselves in the wild. So they'll get to learn kind of all about those animals while interfacing with them and seeing them up close. And then that last bucket are our adventure-based programs. So these programs are the programs that are designed to get your camper to step outside of their comfort zone and to maybe try something new or try something they might be a little bit afraid of. It's very normal for campers to feel scared at these different activities because some of your campers may not have had the opportunity to do this before, or maybe someone's a little bit afraid of heights. So they're kind of like timid about going on our high ropes course, trying something new. What I can say is all of our adventure-based programs are ruled by the philosophy of challenge by choice. So what that essentially means is we're going to let your campers choose what they want to do in these types of programs. I'm pretty sure your teacher selected the zip line, the high ropes course, and the climbing tower. So they'll have a couple different times where they'll get to decide what they want to do. Their challenge is their own challenge, and we know that every camper's challenge might be a little bit different. We might have somebody that's really excited about going down the zip line, and they can go down it with their eyes closed and their arms in the air. And then we might have somebody that only feels comfortable putting the harness on and getting hooked up and then being like, that's enough for me. We celebrate whatever any camper chooses to do. That's the choice part, but we are going to try to challenge them. So if a camper is a little bit timid, like I said, we expect that. That's what these programs are designed to kind of challenge them in. It's just stepping a little bit outside of their comfort zone, not entering a panic zone, but trying something new. So if you're comfortable with the harness, well, let's take a step, to the platform here, and let's see how you feel. Maybe you want to come back, and that's totally cool, but maybe you want to go if you kind of like oversee it. So our staff are trained in that facilitation process and trained in staying calm and talking kids through kind of like the decision-making process on what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And our staff also have extra training. So they get certified by an outside entity that comes in, and it's a 4-day training. They go through an extensive learning process of not only learning the gear, but learning how to facilitate the activity and do any sort of like rescuing from the activities. So your campers are safe with these instructors. They've had that training, they've passed tests, they've had shadowing hours. So they are very skilled. And as the Nature Center, we do not put any staff members on these activities that don't want to be there. So the cool thing is when your campers interact with these staff members, they're excited to be on these elements, and they're excited for your kids to try them as well. And then the last thing I wanted to point out that kind of has to do with safety as well with these areas are just the different pieces of equipment. So we make sure that all the campers are equipped. We double, triple check all of the equipment before we send them on to any of our adventure-based programs. So you can see that helmet, harnesses, pulley systems, ropes, all of that again is part of the instructor's training. Your child does not control any of that. That's all controlled by the instructor to make sure that it's done properly and that your children are safe on our courses. This is also where the closed-toed shoes come in handy as well. Like I kind of mentioned before, to make sure that no like rocks get lodged underneath your camper's shoe if they have like a non-closed-toed shoe on. It's also mandatory at these activities. So if a child does not have a closed-toed shoe, we try our best to share between the campers, but it can get hard if nobody in their group has their size shoe. And we hate to see someone not be able to go. So make sure you pack those closed-toed shoes, especially for these programs. All right, this is my favorite slide because I get to talk about our staff and how awesome they are. We get staff from all over the place. It's kind of crazy. I always think it's funny seeing where staff come from because we just feel like small little Howell Nature Center, but they come from all over. They have diverse educational backgrounds. So a lot of our staff are really into the environmental sciences or biology or zoology. We have a lot of budding teachers, people who are studying to become teachers or have been teachers, retired teachers that just love working with kids and love teaching. So no matter who your campers interface with here at the Nature Center, they're going to be interacting with people who are passionate about working with people in the out of doors. So I pride us on how awesome our staff are. So I'm excited for your campers to get to meet them too, and hopefully they make a positive influence in your children's life. If you're on the fence about whether to send your camper to camp, that is totally normal as well. It's a scary world out there, so I know it's hard as a parent to let go and let your children kind of try new things or be away from home. So if you're questioning that, totally makes sense. But if I haven't convinced you yet, with all the cool things they're going to do and all the awesome food they're going to eat and their cool cabins, these are memories that are going to last them a lifetime. I always say during these presentations that these are the exact photos that are going to show up their senior year when they're about to graduate and they have their senior slideshow and they're all talking about, remember that time at camp? Oh my gosh, not only are they trying new things at camp, they could be interacting with people that they've gone to school with for forever, or maybe are just getting to know, and they're making new friends and they're stepping outside of their comfort zone in that way too, meeting people that maybe they never had a class with before, but they got to go down the zip line together and help each other out and, build the best fire that the Howell Nature Center has ever seen. So it's just a really good time. And I hope that if you're a little bit nervous, know that that's normal and that sending your kid to camp is a good thing. They're going to make some really awesome memories here. So that's it for me. I don't know if people are enabled to ask questions or if there are questions I can answer that maybe the teachers already know, but I'll put this slide up just in case you want to contact us here at the Welcome Center or at the Nature Center. This is our Welcome Center line. We have somebody on that line from 10 to 5 p.m. 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, including the weekends and 7 days a week. So if you have any inquiries or questions, they're awesome in there. Feel free to give them a call and ask. If you also want to talk to me directly, totally cool too. Just let the Welcome Center know that you want to talk to Maggie, and they'll connect you to my direct line. And then if you find an animal and you need help, especially now that it's spring, we call it baby season. It's when all the babies come out and all the everybody's trying to dodge all the different animals on the highways and the roads. If you find an animal that needs help, our wildlife helpline is there as well. So that's what I got for everybody.
I wanted to interject really quickly. I'm getting in the question and answers. A couple of you have some issues with audio. So what I'm hoping is that also this should be closed captioned on the bottom. So if you're having some issues, you might want to, I think if you just select closed caption, you should be able to see it all come up on the bottom. So you might be at least be able to get some audio that way. Generally, one way to fix that too is if you click that little, looks like an arrow right next to where the microphone icon is, you can change some adjustments with where your source comes from, and maybe that might help a little bit too. Try that.
All right.
All right, hold on real quick, Maggie. Can you see the questions?
Let me open it up and let me see.
Okay, because we are getting a couple of questions here.
Okay, I gotcha. I see. So curious about what the menu is. I can email the menu over to the teachers. We run on a set menu that kind of rotates every 2 weeks. So we'll be able to sort of guess what that menu is going to be this far out. It might change a little bit by the time we get there if any of the teachers have any special requests, but I'll email that to the teachers. And then if you all want to email that out to your parents, that'd be awesome. Will there be coffee for chaperones? Yes, we have coffee machines in every cabin, and all the things to make the coffee. They're like the old school machines that have all the different warmers that you see in restaurants and stuff. So you're able to do that. And then how are medications handled? Do you all get the health officer for your trip? Or
Yes.
Okay.
So we will talk about that a little bit more once you're all done, Maggie, and we get into the Celine specific information.
Okay, perfect. What I can say then to Kate here is that we have health officers on site that handle and process all the medications and make sure that the campers get them when they need them. And then provide helmets for the kids. Do they need gloves? We provide helmets for the kids. They don't need gloves for the zip line. It's not a braking system like how you might see some places. We have a different braking system. So all they need to do is just hang on to their zip line, or they don't even have to hang on to their zip lines. Are you allowed to bring an ebook? I'll let the teachers answer that. They have different, a lot of teachers have different policies on the electronic piece.
I will say at Celine, we have decided that we're going to be electronic free. It helps. We want the kids to be in the moment. We don't have to worry about losing anything. You know, there are outlets in the cabins. There's not an unlimited amount of outlets. We tend to try to make them available for chaperones to be able to plug in their cell phones and charge them up and stuff. So we say no electronics and no ebook readers.
All right. What is the process for registering our child if he's just now wanting to go? I'll let you all take that one.
Yep. So you would just go to that RevTrak link that your child's teacher shared with you, and you can register that way, and also let your child's teacher know that your child has decided that he wants to go to camp, which is awesome.
Do the bathrooms have outlets? Yes, they do. Are there lake activities? There are lake activities, but I don't think you all chose the lake ones, right? I can't
No.
remember. No,
Yes,
okay.
we will not be doing any lake activities.
No.
My son has a lot of energy and sometimes likes to just run. I see that running is not a lot of H&C. Is this at all times? Is there free time or Gaga ball that would allow some cardio? Yeah, for sure. We have 2 Gaga pits and we've got kind of like a big open field that the kids are more than welcome to run around in that spot. And really the running is just going to and from activities, like how I pointed out about our trails. We just want to make sure that nobody trips and falls and hurts themselves and then can't have a good camp experience or continue with the activities. So we just kind of make everybody walk to and from those. But oh yeah, we definitely burn them out and have strategies for that. They'll come back very tired. What if the kids panic in the middle of the ropes course, climbing tower, etc.? I'm sure it happens. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. It definitely does happen. Part of the training for our educators is de-escalation processes and when to know, you know, if a camper is just completely frozen or nonverbal or is like completely done. We have strategies in place to be able to just get that camper off of the course without their participation. So it's part of our emergency procedures, but a lot of times the staff are able to de-escalate and calm the camper down. So the kids cannot use their phones to call us.
Correct. So students are not bringing cell phones, but if a need arises for a student to contact a parent, all of the teachers and staff members will have their phone if a student needs to contact them, but students are not allowed.
Does Jason live there? I hope not. I haven't seen Jason here. Though it does get kind of dark and creepy at night, so I would suggest packing a flashlight. Though in May, it'll probably be pretty late. Are the toilets for students automatic, flush, or manual? They are manual, so they hold the handle down. And then what if the chaperones panic on a ropes course? Same thing. We're trained to de-escalate anybody, no matter their age. You just might be a little bit heavier to take down if you go nonverbal and don't want to participate anymore. I feel like that is yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Maggie, for joining us, presenting and sharing so much great information about the Howell Nature Center. It is going to be such a fun experience.
Yes, I'm so excited for all of your campers, and just reach out if you all need anything.
We will. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you. All right, parents, we are going to share some Celine specific information with you. So Jay, if you could share that document that Marcy sent.
And I do want to kind of add, this is additional information for parents. So regular Celine parents, please stay on with us. We have some stuff that will tell you specific to Celine. We did talk about chaperones afterwards. That stuff is coming up later. So this is information for regular parents. We'll let you know when the rest of you can drop off. And then if you're a chaperone, we'd like you to stay on.
All right. Thank you. All right. Jay, next slide, please. All right. So as mentioned by Maggie, we have 3 different camp dates, May 1st through 3rd, May 3rd through the 5th, and May 8th through the 10th. So as you can see here on the screen, our first group and our last group are our larger groups. So we will get to utilize all of those cabins that they have at Howell Nature Center. And then our group in the middle is just a smaller set of students who will still have just as much fun. All right. What to pack? This is always a question students have lots of questions about. First of all, going back to what Maggie said about bags and what you should like types of bags to bring. Really, it's up to the student what they're comfortable with carrying, but just keep in mind your student will have to carry their own bag. So be aware of overpacking. Think of things that are just essential. In the packet that was sent home with your student, there is kind of a suggested packing list. Some of the more important things are obviously their sleeping items. We suggest whichever sleeping items you choose to bring, whether it's a sleeping bag or a blanket and sheets, that you put those into a garbage bag, just a big black garbage bag with some masking tape that has your child's name and their teacher on it. Those are just a lot easier to throw in there. You'll want to make sure that you do pack sleeping bags or blankets, whether it's sheets in a blanket, a sleeping bag with a fitted sheet, and kind of going off of Maggie as well. For experience, that fitted sheet is really, really helpful. The mattresses do get a little bit slippery, so I would definitely suggest making sure that is on your packing list. Bringing an extra bag and masking tape to put like dirty clothes in, to repack your sheets and pillows and blankets at the end would be helpful. We will have some extra black garbage bags and masking tape like with us for each group, but again, just making sure to pack an extra garbage bag into your child's belongings would be really helpful. And don't forget a pillow. Your student will need towels, such as like a washcloth, a bath towel, shoes. Make sure that they are not open-toed. We want them to make sure that they can experience all of the fun activities at Howell Nature Center. So making sure that they do not have open-toed shoes except flip-flops for the shower. We suggest bringing 2 pairs of shoes. It can get muddy, it can get wet. It's Michigan. We know that sometimes it can snow when we think the snow is over. So winter boots could also be really helpful. I would not suggest buying a brand new pair of tennis shoes and wearing them for the first time at Howell Nature Center. I would definitely make sure if you are buying any sort of new shoes for your student for camp that you let them break them in a little bit. We are doing a lot of walking. Warm clothes, again, weather can change here in an instant in Michigan. It's never hurts to pack like a hat or gloves, some layers. It could be really, really cool in the morning when we go out for our first set of activities, and then get really warm around lunchtime or right before dinner. We also suggest just a drawstring backpack or any small backpack that would be really helpful for carrying things like a water bottle, which we suggest taking with you to all activities, maybe a hat, gloves, a sweater, or a raincoat. Definitely bring a reusable water bottle. There are refill stations that students can refill those water bottles with, but there are no drinking fountains themselves. With the water bottle, we also suggest that it is a plastic water bottle or like the stainless steel, like a hydro flask, but the glass water bottles, definitely wouldn't pack. If they break, it's much harder to clean up and it could hurt themselves or someone else. No devices need to be packed with your student. So please leave cell phones, video games, tablets, music devices at home. We don't want anything getting ruined. We do allow students to bring cameras. We suggest good old disposable cameras. It's less likely to get broken, or if it gets misplaced, you're not misplacing a nice small digital camera. So students love to take pictures. Watches are welcome except cellular enabled watches. Please know the risks if your student is wearing some sort of an outdoor watch. Things happen. It could get lost. It could get broken. Just want to make sure that there are risks involved with that. No money. Students won't need any money for anything while we are there. And again, we do suggest bringing a rain jacket or some sort of warm jacket. Mrs. Goyette, do you have anything else to add to that? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to answer some of the questions that are popping up in the question and answer section. I'll just answer to the last one that says, how do we handle homesick kids? Do you end up sending them home or do they get through it? We really do try to alleviate their concerns and things like that. If we really feel the need, we will actually call you and have you talk to them. However, occasionally we have had the students that what we kind of say is basically shut down. We can't get them to do anything. They're not going to participate. And because just the nature of we're constantly on the move, we have to keep going and everything. If that student is not going to at least try or do some of the activities or move around with the groupings, we just don't have the extra chaperoning and the staff to continue to keep them there. So that would probably be when you would get a phone call. I will say 90% of the time, there is some anxiousness going in. We have parents saying, I'm not sure if my student wants to go and things like that. Really, we try to keep them, they're so busy, they're so excited, they're doing all kinds of things that all of a sudden they don't realize that they've been there, they've gotten through the whole day, and they really are make it through the night and they are fine the rest of the time. And they don't want to leave when they get done. So we will help them. We will try to alleviate them. We might make a phone call to you and everything. But really sending them home would be like, if they really completely kind of shut down and we can't get them to participate, then we would probably ask you to come pick them up.
Yep. Perfect. All right. We'll go ahead and move on, Jay. Thank you. So going to food, there is always plenty of food for everyone. At each meal, students will have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They will also be provided with some snacks in between those meals because they will get hungry. Please make sure that your child's teacher is aware of any dietary concerns if you haven't done so already. So that could be if your student is a vegetarian, if they are allergic to something very specific, whatever those dietary concerns are, or dietary needs, please make sure you make your child's teacher aware. We will send those to the camp as soon as possible. And then we can work with them on a menu to make sure that students have options for everyone. Mrs. Hervey, she will also work with the camp staff in case of severe allergies. And Mrs. Hervey is our school nurse. Please, please, please do not put food or snacks in your campers' luggage. There are no food or snacks allowed in the cabins for many reasons. We don't want any little critters making their way into our cabins with our students. On the very first day that your student is leaving for camp, you will need to make sure that they have a bag lunch. They will bring that with them into school. It should not go in their luggage. It should be peanut and tree nut free and disposable so that students don't have to carry around any lunch boxes that first day that we are at camp. With luggage, in the morning, there will be at Liberty some buses, and that is where you will drop off your students' luggage. The luggage buses will arrive around 8 a.m. and leave around 9 a.m. One Heritage staff member will also be at that location to collect any different medications that your student might need. Please have those medications in the original container in a plastic bag with directions and labeled with your child's name. You also will put all labeled luggage onto the luggage bus at that time. Please make sure that if your student has multiple bags, like maybe the black garbage bag with their sleeping items and then their regular duffel bag, that both are labeled with your student's name and their teacher. This just helps for when we get to camp and we're unloading, students can easily identify their bag. Students in the past have put really cool tags on their bag, or they've used different bright colored duct tape, something to make it really easily identifiable for them. If you are chaperoning, you can take your own child's luggage to the Howell Nature Center with you, but please remember to not put their lunch on the luggage bus, or if you're chaperoning to take that lunch with you, send it with your student. Anything else, Ms. Goyette, for food or luggage?
No, just a quick reminder too, chaperones, you do also need a lunch for yourself.
Oh,
I think the first day, I almost forgot mine. So yes, chaperones will also need a lunch for that first day too.
Perfect. All right. Returning back to Heritage, we will return to Heritage around 1:45 p.m. on your designated day. So our first group, that means on May 3rd, we will return back about 1:45. The second group, you will return back on May 5th at 1:45. And then our last group of campers going will return back on May 10th at around 1:45 p.m. Your child does not go back to school at this time, so you will grab their luggage and you will take them home. They are going to be so tired after a long couple of days at camp. If the luggage bus does arrive before students arrive, please help unload and help claim luggage. It helps the process go so much faster. At this time, if you have dropped off any medications, or not dropped them off, but sent them with your student to camp, please make sure that you pick up any of those medications from the Heritage office. And you'll enter through the front doors after students have returned, pick up their medications, and then you can take your student and be on your way. Mrs. Goyette, anything? I think I saw maybe a question pop up about this. Oh, again, Mrs. Goyette, you're muted.
It's been too long. We haven't had virtual. I keep forgetting. There was a question that just popped up and it was asking about, can our student ride the bus the day of the trip? Your student may, however, you can't send your luggage and all of that stuff with your student on the bus. So maybe if you can leave earlier and you end up going to the Liberty to drop off the luggage and anything that needs to be dropped off, your student can ride the regular bus to school. We will not leave until all of the buses arrive, because some students do arrive. We will reach out if you do have a student that goes to latchkey or early school there. We generally have to make some special arrangements for that, because sometimes you are dropping off before the bus even arrives at Liberty. And if that's the case, reach out to your teacher. We will talk to you, and we do figure out some arrangements where your luggage does kind of come to the Heritage School, and we find a way to get it to either the luggage bus, or it gets probably tossed in either a chaperone or a teacher's car, and it gets to where it needs to be.
Perfect. And then another question, kind of going back to the medication that you would drop off with luggage. How about over-the-counter medication like Tylenol or Motrin? That is handled the same way as maybe prescribed medication. So if your student might tend to get headaches or has allergies, you will want to put that medication labeled with your student's name, with the directions, just the same as you would for any prescribed medications.
I will speak to this too, that I believe they have some of those available, like some of the basic stuff, some Tylenol and things available. One of the things, if you have not sent your forms in, and I believe, I'm trying to remember, at the back of the form, there is a spot where you do indicate that you are giving permission to administer some basic over-the-counter stuff. I think it specifically says like Tylenol and things like that. So if something were to pop up and you did not send something, we can probably have access to it, and then we would just look at those medical forms to make sure that you gave us permission to give them something.
Mm-hmm. And the question asking about how medications are handled. All medications are handled with the health officer that will be at camp. So in the morning when luggage is dropped off at the buses, there will be a Heritage staff member there who will be collecting any medications that you bring. It will go in a secure container, which will then be delivered to the health officer, who will be in charge of distributing medications to our students when they are needed. So on those forms Mrs. Goyette was talking about, please make sure that you indicate when your student may need to take certain medications, and again, those directions for those medications, so that the health officer is aware.
One is asking about melatonin. We really ask that if there is any kind of thing that your student needs to take, that it needs to kind of go through the procedure of the dosing and the bag and their name and everything on it. We just don't want to have that students have the access by themselves, even if it's melatonin, which they're normally used to having, or whatever. We don't want an accident of somebody going, oh yeah, I'd like to take this to help me sleep, and they decide to give it to a friend or something like that. So all the medication, we're asking even something like melatonin, which might help your students sleep, please label it, put it, and send it through the regular procedures for dropping off medications.
Mrs. Glad, do we want to go through the rest of the questions relating to medications before moving on from this slide?
Yes, I think so. Okay, your son has asthma, and who's going to carry the inhaler? Any emergency inhalers and things that we have, we get those, they go with us. We take them from the school, the supply that's been given to the school. We take them with us, and they go, things like inhalers that need to be with the student all the time, they go with the chaperone throughout the day. Okay, so if there's an immediate need for those EpiPens, inhalers, and that, they have access to it right away with the chaperone. So that travels with the student, but through the chaperone. The chaperone will be the one that will be carrying that.
Bug spray, yes, we encourage bringing bug spray with them. That is not something that would need to go in the medication bag. Bug spray, sometimes sunscreen, so definitely that as well. You're going to want your student to have that.
Can chaperones be in charge of distributing meds to their own kids and keeping them in their own luggage? Nicole, I'm not 100% sure. I think we have before, but the idea is also is that we don't want really any medications to be accessible within the cabins. So we even ask chaperones if there's medications and things that you have, that medications are secured in their car. So as adults, if we need something, we ask you that you secure it in the car, so nothing is available for there. All medications are really secured in the health room, and they are under lock and key. And the health officer, yes, I believe, is a nurse. I will say one of the trips we are taking, actually, we know definitely a nurse with us. So let me see. All right, we have a question in regards to kind of a student has a medication and only needs it when they feel like they're having a bad day or something is going wrong. Again, please put the medication labeled, student's name, everything, the dosing on the outside, and that type of a thing. If a student would indicate that they need something, we would get them to the health officer to get that stuff administered to them. So for example, it would happen like during the day. Chaperones will have access to the teachers and be able to communicate with us. We usually share out our cell phones with them, cell phone numbers, and so they can be in contact with us all the time. And if a student needed something, we could get them to the health officer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, self-administering her own rescue inhaler. Again, we send all rescue inhalers. We do it through the chaperones. They will be in close proximity to that. We also, a lot of the time, the adults we want to make sure that something doesn't get left at one activity, traveling to another activity. So a lot of times we just keep this all with the chaperones. Okay, how is the supervision time divided between SAS teachers, Howell staff, and parent chaperones? Okay, so basically how it works is the kids will travel in groups, and chaperones are with other chaperones, so that we have that 2 or 3 chaperones within the group there. And us as teachers, we are not assigned a grouping of teachers. We kind of really need to be available to be all over. Sometimes it's handling emergency situations, students needing to go home, things like that. So we tend to travel throughout the day. We want to visit the kids in all their different activities. We want to see them. that is what we are doing most of the time. But in order to do that, we will not specifically have a set of kids with us. They will stay with the chaperones. They travel as a group. They will always be with the chaperones. And the staff, there are always multiple staff at the different activities that are there. So the staff will be at each activity. Do we need more chaperones? Oh, excellent question. Please reach out to your teachers. I have spoken to some teachers and they've been very blessed and had more than enough parents volunteer. Some, I think, are struggling or, have some parents that have said, yes, I'll go, but only if nobody else really wants to go. So if there's something that reach out to your teacher, they might actually still need somebody. So that's going to be on a per teacher basis. So reach out to them.
What about snacks for diabetics, for lows? Yes, snacks are absolutely in those circumstances allowed. We will be working with Nurse Hervey to go through students who may need to bring those sorts of things with them to make sure that they have everything that they need. We will also make sure that chaperones have those items too with them. So we will be in touch for any specific needs like that. Okay, I'm going to keep going with the presentation and then we'll come back to some questions in just a little bit. Okay, Jay, thank you. Homesickness, Mrs. Goyette kind of touched on this in a little while ago with the questions, but if they make it through their first night, they'll be okay. Really encourage them if they kind of feel a little bit anxious going into this, try to be positive. We've rarely had a problem, and Mrs. Goyette, I think, did a great job explaining this earlier about how we really work to alleviate any anxiety with students. All right, in case of emergencies, so if you were to have an emergency at home while your student is away at camp, it is best to send an email directly to the teacher, as most of us will have access to our emails and be checking it periodically throughout the day. You could also try and call the school office and they can contact us during the day. If there is an emergency at night, you can call the camp directly, and in that camp paperwork is a direct number to their emergency line, which they will answer late into the evening. Okay, forms and payments, and Jake, you go one more slide. Thank you. Okay, so forms and payments by tomorrow, March 15th, if you are still undecided on if your child will be attending camp, hopefully this meeting has given you some clarity. Please let your student's teacher know tomorrow if your student will or will not attend camp. If you have already sent in the form that says, yes, my student is attending, no need to send anything else in at this time. Payments are due on RevTrack by April 14th. All other forms, including the student waiver for activities, the health form, and the permission slip are due back to your student's teacher by April 14th. I think we have one more slide specific to all parents. Camp apparel. So every 5th grade student and chaperone will have the opportunity to purchase camp apparel. This would include like t-shirts or sweatshirts. They'll be very similar to last year's shirts. All shirts will be delivered to Heritage about 2 weeks before camp. And you will be getting some more information about this and how to order those, that camp apparel very soon, within the next few weeks here. That will be coming home to you. All right, Mrs. Goyette, anything else for the good of the whole group before we break away to chaperones?
I guess just a couple of quick questions. Can students bring cards, board games, etc.? They can. However, we do tell the students they are responsible for carrying all of their own luggage. We will not help them transport stuff. So a lot of times all these extra things start adding to the weight of that duffel bag or whatever. And also really we keep them pretty busy, so they might not have time. I would suggest if they're going to bring something, maybe a small travel size card game or something like that would be fine for them to pack.
Mm-hmm. How are cabins or chaperones assigned? So cabins are assigned really essentially based on numbers of students per class. Depending on how many students are in one class or actually going, we split that up between boys and girls. Chaperones are assigned, male chaperones would be with our male students. Female chaperones will be with our female students, and they will be in the cabins with students.
We have a question here in regards to bathroom showering policies, as well as sleep arrangements, monitoring at night. The monitoring at night is all of the teachers, we do come through for bed checks to check up on everybody right before that lights out. The chaperones, there are more than one chaperone in each room. So we each have multiple, like that kind of double layering there with more than one chaperone. In regards to like, for example, if we send a chaperone with a student that needs to go to the restroom, the chaperone is going to be taking 2 students that goes to the restroom and things like that. In regards to monitoring, yes, the chaperones, we ask the chaperones to be aware, and everything through the night, they're monitoring exactly what's going on in that room. Bathrooms and showerings, there are separate gender specific bathrooms and showers. So a lot of times what we find is that they kind of figure it out among themselves. For example, if they want to do showering in the morning or in the evening, the chaperones lots of times will check to see who wants to use all the facilities and kind of adjust for it and say, okay, you 10, how about you guys take a shower tonight? You 10, you get up kind of early and we're going to take one in the morning, and that type of thing. I think that's what you guys are asking in regards to that question that's out there.
In our situations where an adult and child would be alone, I don't know if you answered that part, Marcy, but no, if a student needed to go to the bathroom during an activity, they would always go with another student. So there are always 2 students with 1 adult. Within the cabins themselves, there are always 2 chaperones and then all of the students. There are no refunds. So if you did make a payment and your student was not able to go, we are not able to issue a refund. Do you want to answer the receipt question? You might know a little bit more than I do.
Yes, if that's something that you're unsure about, I'm actually the one that's kind of can see the rev track information. So if you want to just send me an email, I can verify that for you. And my email is goyette.m@Saline Schools, and I can check that for you.
Perfect. Okay, and if you have any other questions that maybe pop up later tonight, you can always email your student's classroom teacher. You could email myself, I am Mrs. Gibson, and my email is on the screen if you wanted to write that down, or you could also email Mrs. Goyette, and her email is also on the screen. So at this time, thank you so much for joining us. And if you are a chaperone, we ask that you stay on for a short chaperone specific meeting. All other attendees can head out and have a wonderful evening.